Tales from the Treehouse.
Hi, I'm Ben. Welcome to Tales from the Treehouse. I'm going to tell you a story, so make sure you're feeling nice and comfy. Make sure you're lying or sitting down, not too warm, not too cold, just feeling relaxed. To help, take a breath in and out. In for 3, 1, 2, 3. Out for 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In for 3, 1, 2, 3. Out for 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. Soft, calm, and relaxed. This will help your imagination flow. This is a listening story, so that you can close your eyes if you like, and watch the pictures to go with the story just come into your mind. Imagine what all the characters look like for you, and walk through their world with them. Here we go. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived with her mother on the edge of a wood. Now nobody tells us what this little girl's name was. She might have had the same name as you, or she might have had something completely ridiculous. But the thing was, she was always known as Little Red Riding Hood because she had a little red riding hood that she wore all the time. Now, no one ever tells us if she actually did any riding while she was wearing her riding hood. And what is a riding hood anyway? I don't know. But that's what she was called, and she did have a hood that apparently you can use for riding. In any case, one day her mother said to her, "Dearest, your grandmother isn't very well, and I thought it might be rather nice if you could go and see her. Take her some cakes. It'll cheer her up no end. You could also pick some flowers in the forest on the way there if you like." "Oh, yes, Mother," said Little Red Riding Hood, who was a very good little girl. "I'd love to make Granny happy. Oh, is this the basket?" "Yes," said her mother, "and in there are the cakes for Granny. You'll have to pick some flowers for yourself on the way. Now, young lady, you know the rules. Don't leave the path, and don't talk to strangers. Understand?" "Yes, Mother, don't worry," said Little Red Riding Hood. And taking the basket, off she set, skipping along the path into the forest and towards Granny's house. On the way, there were lots of flowers growing in the forest. Can you think of what flowers there might be? Well, there were primroses. There might be wild roses, or violets, dandelions, daffodils, all sorts. Depends what time of year it was. And they don't tell us what time of year it was. But I'm sure she got some lovely flowers on the way. She was so busy picking flowers that she didn't notice someone had taken notice of her. A certain unpleasant, hairy gentleman that lived in the woods. The big, bad wolf. And the big, bad wolf came up to Little Red Riding Hood and said, "Hello, dear. I wonder, what could a young girl like you be doing in the woods all on your own like this, Now, Little Red Riding Hood knew this was a stranger, and she shouldn't talk to him. So she just stood there with her mouth shut. "Oh, won't you talk to me?" said the big bad wolf. "You mustn't worry about me." "My mother said I shouldn't talk to strangers," Little Red Riding Hood blurted out. "And your mother would be very right to say so. But, look, I'm the wolf. Nice to meet you. You are... Little Red Riding Hood. There you are, then. So now we know each other. I'm no longer a stranger. Who are those delicious cakes for?" he said, looking at the basket. "And the flowers?" They're for my Granny. She lives in the wood." "Oh, Granny's house. Yes, I know. Would you like me to go with you?" "I'm afraid I'd really rather you didn't," said Little Red Riding Hood. I want to go on my own, thank you very much." I see. Well, perhaps I'll be seeing you another time. Good day." And the big bad wolf trotted off into the woods. But he had an idea. He knew a shortcut to Granny's house, and he thought to himself, that little girl would make quite a lovely meal. Yes, I shall beat her to Granny's house and deal with her there." And so he took a short cut through the woods, and managed to get there long before Red Riding Hood did. He knocked on the door, and Granny answered it, saying,
"Yes, who is there?"
But the wolf didn't even answer. He just pushed the door open, shoved his way in, grabbed Granny, and swallowed her in one big gulp. He burped. Do you think he said excuse me? Do you think he said pardon me? No, because he's a big bad wolf, and as you may know, big bad wolves have no manners. He just looked around himself and thought, now then, if I'm to surprise this little girl, I had better get myself dressed. And he took up one of Granny's nightdresses and a pair of reading glasses off the side, and dressed himself in these. He also put on a nightcap so that you couldn't see his hair or his ears, and got into bed with the glasses perched on the end of his nose, just like a grandmother would. Now about that time, Little Red Riding Hood arrived at Granny's house, and she knocked on the door. "Granny, Granny, it's Little Red Riding Hood."
"Oh, yes, dear. Push the door and come in so I can see you."
Now Granny's voice sounded a little bit strange to Little Red Riding Hood, but she pushed the door in and came inside. "Oh dear, Granny, you don't sound very well." "Oh," she said, looking at the wolf dressed up as grandmother in the bed. "What big eyes you have."
"All the better for seeing you with, my dear,"
said the wolf.
"And what a big nose you have." "All the better for smelling you with, my dear,"
said the wolf.
"And what big teeth you have." "All the better for eating you with, my dear,"
said the wolf, and he jumped out of bed, grabbed Red Riding Hood, and swallowed her whole as well. Do you think he said excuse me this time, or pardon me? No, and you know why? Because big bad wolves have no manners. He just got back into bed and fell fast asleep because he was so full of Granny and Little Red Riding Hood. Now you might be thinking that this is really rather an unpleasant way to finish a story. So you'll be pleased to know that the story hasn't finished yet. It just so happened that Granny had a friend, a woodcutter, who would call by her house every now and again and bring her a bit of wood for her fire. And he was on his way to see her at that very moment. And so the woodcutter came up the path, but rather than knocking, he saw that the door was open. And thinking this was odd, he just came inside. He noticed the basket on the floor. He noticed Little Red Riding Hood's hood had fallen off onto the bed. Of course, he didn't know who it belonged to. But when he looked at the bed, he wasn't fooled by who was curled up there, sleeping. He'd seen this wolf before. They were old enemies, he and the woodcutter. Suddenly, the woodcutter realized what must have happened. He'd come in here and eaten at least Granny, and maybe someone else as well by looking around. He knew what to do. He went into the garden and found himself some large rocks. He took them inside and took out his sharpest knife. It was such a sharp knife that if you cut yourself on it, you wouldn't really feel too much pain. And so while the wolf was asleep, he took the knife and carefully he took off the covers and slit the wolf from the bottom of his belly all the way up to the top. He opened it up, and out came Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother, still in one piece and still very much alive. "Shh," said the woodcutter. As they watched, the woodcutter took the stones and put them inside the wolf's belly, and carefully taking a very, very sharp needle, he sewed the wolf back up with the stones inside. Then the three of them waited for the wolf to wake up. Eventually, his nose twitched, his eyebrows bristled, and he opened his eyes. "Oh dear," said the wolf, "I'm so thirsty. Oh, my tummy feels awful. I should really get myself a drink." The woodcutter, Granny, and Little Red Riding Hood were hiding behind the sofa as the wolf clambered up out of the bed and out of the back door and into the garden to find the well. He staggered all the way there going, "Oh, my stomach! Oh dear! Oh!" He leaned over the well to drop a bucket down inside it, and as he did so, the stones in his tummy made him overbalance forwards, and he tumbled off his feet into the well and down. And was never seen again. And so the woodcutter stayed for tea and some of the cakes that Little Red Riding Hood had brought from her mother, and they finished the day feeling rather pleased with themselves. But do you think Little Red Riding Hood had learnt her lesson? I hope she was a bit more wary of people she didn't know coming up and speaking to her while she was on her own after that. But anyway, that's the tale as I heard it said, and if there's a fib in it, I'm off home to bed. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story today. There will be another one soon, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel or our blog so you get a message when the next one is ready. If you'd like to draw a picture of a scene you imagined from the story today, then I'd love to put it on our video here or on our website for other children to see. Please take a photo of your picture and email it to us at info@treehousetheatre.com. I was Ben all this time. Until next time, cheerio.
Tales from the Treehouse.